brace yourself, because what started as a routine reimagining of Disney's most iconic fairy tale has exploded into a whirlwind of legal threats, industry backlash, and personal drama. Reports suggest that Rachel Zegler, hailed as Hollywood's So, rising talent for her role in West Side Story, is now caught in a storm so fierce it might jeopardize her entire career. How could a dream gig like playing Snow White spiral into a fiasco that leaves even Disney executives scrambling for damage control? Stick around, and you'll witness a cautionary saga of clashing egos, outraged fans, and a studio determined to claw back its investment by any means necessary.
They don't know what merit is, because they get paid whether they succeed or not.
The Snow White remake was supposed to be Disney's golden ticket for revamping its beloved classics. Early on, fans buzzed about the film's potential. A major Hollywood studio, updating the 1937 cartoon masterpiece for a modern era.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
With fresh perspectives on romance and female empowerment, Rachel Zegler's casting seemed like a natural fit. After her breakout success, she had strong vocals, a devoted social media following, and that youthful energy Disney loves to spotlight. But not everyone greeted these changes with open arms. Rumors surfaced that the new version would abandon the original love story, drastically revamp the dwarfs, and introduce a different worldview. Devotees of the classic felt uneasy. They wondered if the remake's modern twists would clash.
And you wonder why people are turning from this stuff in droves, right? Like that the original prince was stalking her. I don't even really remember what Snow White was about either.
With the fairy tale magic that made Snow White so cherished, while skepticism built on fan forums, official PR channels insisted the production would preserve the story's timeless essence, just with some updates. Yet behind the scenes, subtle warnings emerged. Insiders whispered that creative disagreements were already simmering. No one knew the scale of these issues, but rumblings about behind-the-scenes friction started to overshadow the film's rosy PR. In retrospect, these early signals were the first signs of a much bigger problem. If the initial news raised eyebrows, the subsequent interviews and social media posts triggered full-on alarm. Rachel Zegler's outspoken comments about the original story.
Snow White said that harm should befall Trump and his voters. Do not see this film.
Calling certain elements weird or outdated, rubbed longtime fans the wrong way. Instead of gently guiding them toward a new interpretation, her remarks felt dismissive. "We're changing Snow White," she seemed to declare, "because the original story was out of touch with modern values." This stance collided head-on with Disney's marketing strategy, which promised both tradition and innovation. The contradiction became harder to ignore, especially when rumors leaked that Rachel and her co-star Gal Gadot had clashed on set. Where one sought to honor certain fairy tale elements, the other, rumor had it, favored bolder reconfigurations. Day by day, these whispers grew louder, stoking curiosity and concern in equal measure. But it wasn't just about creative direction. Rachel's offhand social media posts, some referencing hot-button political matters or making veiled criticisms of Hollywood bigwigs, fueled more turbulence. The actress had every right to her personal opinions, but in an industry that invests hundreds of millions into a single film, outspoken stances can become liabilities overnight. Fans started questioning the sincerity of this production, seeing it less as a love letter to the classic and more as a battleground for clashing agendas. By the time official trailers and teasers dropped, a portion of the audience was already in revolt. Social media threads boiled with outrage, speculation, and snarky memes. Still, no one predicted the possibility of legal interventions, or the rumors of blacklisting that would soon follow. The drama was only just beginning, but this was only the tip of the iceberg. With the atmosphere growing more toxic, Disney's top brass could sense a potential box office disaster. Once a film's reputation nosedives online, it's brutally difficult to salvage. Bob Iger, determined to rescue the project, reportedly initiated a multi-pronged damage control campaign. The strategy: pivot the conversation back to the film's positives, feature more upbeat marketing materials, and downplay the controversies swirling around the actors. Despite these efforts, Rumors spread that Disney might take unprecedented steps to recover financial losses. Whispers about potential legal action bubbled up. A shocking move, considering it was aimed at their own star. Industry insiders hinted that Disney's executives felt Rachel's public statements had actively undercut the movie's appeal. From statements that belittled classic elements to pointed remarks about social issues, critics argued that she alienated family audiences who wanted a simple fairy tale. The legal situation remained murky. Would Disney truly sue its lead for contributing to a marketing disaster? Could they prove any breach of contract? Sources close to the studio insisted the brand had to protect itself, even if that meant targeting a promising new talent. This swirling speculation alone was enough to further tarnish the film's image. Instead of focusing on Snow White's storyline or cinematography, entertainment news cycles fixated on the bizarre meltdown behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Rachel's camp dismissed the idea that she'd done anything wrong, suggesting the negative. Press was fueled by misogynistic trolls and those unwilling to see a classic story modernized. Her defenders said it was all a big misunderstanding, that the star was simply championing a progressive viewpoint. Yet from a purely business perspective, the meltdown loomed too large to ignore, and that's when the industry at large started. Taking sides, word travels fast in Hollywood. Almost as soon as talk of a looming lawsuit broke, other studios reportedly began reassessing any upcoming offers for Rachel Zegler. In a risk-averse industry, a star mired in controversy isn't exactly a safe bet. While public scuffles sometimes boost an actor's profile, the scale and negativity of this fiasco rang alarm bells. Potential deals that once seemed certain were quietly shelved. Indie projects might still have welcomed the publicity, but big budget productions, the ones with marketing campaigns that run into hundreds of millions, grew leery. Execs worried that if Rachel's name was on the poster, the ensuing fan backlash or media circus could overshadow the film's narrative. But she wasn't the only one feeling the shock. Gal Gadot, far from a newcomer, also found herself under scrutiny. Allegations swirled that she and Rachel had spats off-camera, bickering that spilled out during promotional events. On top of that, Gadot's own background drew controversy, with critics dissecting her past service in the Israeli military and linking it to the star's current political stances. Suddenly, Snow White's leads were a magnet for negative attention, each fueling the other's predicament. As chatter about blacklisting intensified, many questioned whether that term was an exaggeration. Some defended Rachel, claiming she was being punished for her convictions. Others countered that it had less to do with her beliefs and more to do with the costly fiasco overshadowing the film. In a harsh reality, studios often reward profitability above all else. If an actor's public persona jeopardizes ticket sales, they can swiftly become persona non grata, no matter how promising their skill set. But as the rift widened, the question became whether anything could salvage this modern-day fairy tale. For die-hard fans, the betrayal cut deep. Snow White had always been a symbol of innocence and timeless romance, a classic that opened the door to Disney's entire animated legacy. For decades, families shared the film's enchanting story, across generations. But the new adaptation insisted on reworking core elements, sometimes mocking them in the process. Rachel Zegler's comments about the prince being a borderline stalker, or that the romance was outdated, ignited heated arguments. Online, younger audiences might have been open to a more independent princess, but older fans felt the original's heart was under attack. On the production side, rumor has it that some involved pleaded for a more balanced approach. They wanted to modernize Snow White's role as a leader and highlight her personal growth, without entirely dismissing the fairy tale romance. However, the publicity machine had other ideas, generating bold headlines about the Snow White who won't be saved by any prince. That tagline alienated a swath of viewers who grew up loving the classic storyline. Meanwhile, official trailers seemed uncertain about which direction to emphasize. Did this new Snow White pay homage to the 1937 version, or was it trying to overhaul it completely? That confusion diluted any cohesive message. Add in the swirling accusations of on-set feuds, potential legal clashes, and claims of censorship or blacklisting, and the film's marketing became a disjointed mess. Disney tried to steer the conversation back to the film's visuals, music, and progressive spirit. But the negative chatter about Rachel overshadowed every promotional snippet. Instead of generating awe, each new poster or teaser triggered jokes and critiques online. Once the narrative spins out of a studio's control, reining it back can feel almost impossible. And beneath the strained smiles at press events lay an even darker undercurrent. Inside Disney's corporate corridors, anxieties skyrocketed. Snow White's budget ballooned, thanks to elaborate costumes, high-end CGI, and a global promotional blitz. Executives had counted on a guaranteed hit. Who could resist the nostalgia of a classic that launched Disney's golden age? Now, they faced a possible box office bomb that might cost them tens of millions, if not more. Worse, the swirling drama had tarnished the Disney brand itself, which prided itself on wholesome entertainment suitable for everyone. Bob Iger, as both a figurehead and driving force of the studio, had reason to panic. Animated by the need to protect the company's legacy, he allegedly reached out to Rachel's representatives, urging calmer rhetoric. Some insider accounts suggest top executives begged her to tone down provocative commentary. They worried her statements fueled negative headlines and alienated the film's core audience. But the actress, championed by those who felt she was speaking truth to power, refused to self-censor. As a result, tension trickled down the entire production chain. Co-stars, crew members, and even special effects teams found themselves overshadowed by the rift. Morale nosedived. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot, grappling with her own controversies, attempted to maintain her superstar poise. Friends say she tried smoothing relations with Rachel, but a gulf had formed, one deepened by clashing views on the story's fundamental tone. Financial backers, keen to see a profitable return, explored every avenue to cut losses, from reshuffling promotional spots to quietly scaling back the film's rollout in certain markets. The pressure wasn't just about immediate receipts. Disney stockholders questioned how a film meant to celebrate the studio's heritage had become a magnet for online vitriol. In times of crisis, blame inevitably finds targets. Rachel Zegler, with her high-profile missteps, became an easy focus for corporate wrath. Yet the biggest question lingered. Could the star herself, or the film, recover from the damage already done? Behind this debacle lies a deeper debate about remaking classic films for modern times. Tinkering with a legendary story can breathe fresh life into it. At best, it bridges generations, welcoming new fans without alienating the old. But at worst, it feels like a personal attack on cherished memories. Snow White, the epitome of Disney's fairy tale innocence, became a battleground for broader cultural tensions. Audiences who felt tradition was being tossed aside responded with open hostility. The film's defenders insisted that every generation has the right to reinterpret timeless tales. But that argument proved divisive, particularly when viewers perceived the reinterpretation as mocking or invalidating what they loved about the original. And in a digital era, word of mouth travels at lightning speed. Instead of politely disagreeing, people wage entire social media campaigns urging boycotts or cancellations. Industry insiders are now left dissecting how a big-budget spectacle intended to unify audiences became so polarizing. Part of the blame falls on conflicting narratives. Promoting Snow White as both a faithful homage and a bold departure turned many viewers away in confusion. Another chunk of blame falls on the swirl of controversies overshadowing the film's content. By the time official previews arrived, curiosity about the actual movie took a back seat to the messy public feud among its stars. Studios watching this meltdown from the sidelines have taken notes. The fiasco provides a stark reminder that even a robust franchise can be undermined when the lead actors publicly clash with the very essence of the story and each other. The result is a toxic PR environment that no marketing budget can truly fix. However, no meltdown is complete without a dramatic finale. So here we are, at the end of a once promising journey, and the grand question remains, can anyone involved emerge unscathed? Disney will undoubtedly survive. Its empire is vast, with countless new projects on the horizon. Gal Gadot, already a household name, might weather the storm by focusing on roles that distance her from this fiasco. But for Rachel Zegler, the CO1, consequences could be dire if the rumors of industry shunning hold true. Studios pouring 9-figure budgets into epic productions can't afford another fiasco. Like it or not, the stakes for big franchises are too high to gamble on an actor who might inadvertently spark another PR crisis. At its core, the Snow White saga is a cautionary tale about the fine line between refreshing a classic and alienating. A loyal fan base, nostalgia has real power, and underestimating it can cost a studio dearly. When you stir in public feuds, polarizing statements, and corporate panic, you get a perfect storm that no amount of marketing spin can calm. This fiasco also raises the difficult question of whether public figures can fully express themselves without putting massive investments at risk. Is it fair for a studio to threaten legal action over an actor's opinions? Or does that infringe on personal freedoms? These questions loom larger than any single fairy tale adaptation. For Disney, Snow White's meltdown will remain an expensive footnote in its storied history, a reminder that icons from the past carry emotional weight, and tampering with them calls for delicate care. For audiences, the fiasco underscores the influence social media and cultural divides have on the entertainment industry. And for Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, and the rest of the cast, it's a stark lesson in how quickly Hollywood's adoration can morph into harsh reprobation when a project goes awry. Where things go from here is anyone's guess. Maybe hush-hush negotiations will settle the rumored legal threats, letting everyone move on quietly. Perhaps a future redemption arc awaits. Rachel, especially if she takes on roles that spotlight her talent without igniting controversy. Or maybe the meltdown will ignite lasting changes in how classic stories are remade, and how studios and actors negotiate the treacherous space between creative vision and audience expectations. One thing's certain, in an industry that thrives on spectacle, the Snow White catastrophe has proven that real-life drama can overshadow even the grandest cinematic illusions. It's a reminder that fairy tales, no matter how cherished, aren't immune to modern-day turmoil. If there's a moral to this story, it's that respecting the heart of a classic and respecting the fans who love it might just be the key to a happily ever after that Hollywood so desperately craves. And now, the next chapter is up to the courts, the studios, and the fans. Will this saga have a quiet resolution, or a sequel even more dramatic than the first?